Hello, period 4. If you are not in class today, we are working on the 3.3 to 3.4 word problems worksheet. It is a 2-page worksheet. It is kind of lengthy. However, it is very important that you go through this video either as you fill it out or after you fill it out to see if you're doing these correctly. A large part of your test is going to be can you write the equation and then solve it. If you don't write it correctly, obviously you're going to not solve it correctly either, okay? So it's really important that you use those clue words that we've been talking about to set these problems up correctly, okay? So let's go ahead and get started on the first two. Is just the first one is multiple choice. A company has a profit of $750 this week. So it's telling you what the profit is, which means only A or B could be your answer. This profit is 900 more than the profit P last week. So obviously we're adding the 900 to P. So B would be your answer there, okay? On the second one, we're going to write an equation that can be used to find P. So it doesn't say write and solve, it just says write an equation, okay? So a company has a profit of $120.50 today. So that's what it's going to equal. It has a profit of $120.50 today. This profit is $141.25 less than P yesterday. So we're not sure what yesterday was, so it would be P minus 141.25. Okay, and again, remember subtraction, it has to be in the correct order. So it was 141.25 less than yesterday, so yesterday's profit would come first, so we're not sure what that is, so that's where you'll throw the variable P. So P minus the 141.25. Okay. I'm pretty sure the rest of these you have to write the equation and then solve. Okay, so when we're taking the test, you're going to get a point for writing it correctly, write it as an equation, and then solving it another point. Okay. Again, use those clue words. For less than N. I'm not sure what N is, but 4 is less than N, so it has to be N minus 4 and not the other way around, is a negative 15. So this is how you'll set it up. And then solving that one-step equation, it says minus 4. So I'm going to do the inverse and add 4 to both sides, show your cancellation, leaving you with N. And a negative 15 plus 4 would be a negative 11. Different signs, find the difference. There's more negatives. Okay. The next one, write the word sentence as an equation. That's a point. Then solve. That's a point. 10 more than the number C. So whatever C is, it's 10 more than that. Is 3. Is your equal sign, 3. And then we're going to solve. It says add 10. So we're going to subtract 10 from both sides, show your cancellation. 3 minus 10 is a negative 7. Okay. The next one, write the word sentence, then solve. Sum of y and a negative 3 is a negative 8. Okay. Again, we want to isolate the variables. So it says negative 3. The only way to get that to 0 or just having y left would be to add 3, even though it's a sum, it's an adding. You have to do the inverse of this. So that's a negative 3, so we're going to add 3 to both sides. Negative 3 plus 3 is 0, which is what you want. You want to isolate that variable, and we would get negative 5. Write the word sentence as an equation, then solve. Again, the difference, so we're subtracting, the difference between a number P and 6. So the difference between P and 6 is your equal, is a negative 14. Should look like that. We're going to do the inverse. It says minus 6, so we're going to add 6 to both sides. Show your cancellation. to get a negative 8 different signs. Find the difference. There's more negatives. Okay, here's a word problem. We're going to write it, then solve it. The temperature of dry ice is a negative 109.3 degrees. There's that word is, so that's my equal. This is 184.9 degrees less than the outside temperature. What's the outside temperature? Not sure, but whatever it is, the temperature is 184.9 degrees less than that. So it has to be T minus the 184.9. We're going to do the inverse to solve, so we're going to add 184.9 to both sides to get T by itself. So these are different signs, so I'm going to find the difference. When I'm finding the difference, you guys know the bigger number goes on top, and there is more positive, so my answer should be positive. So temperature would be 75.6. Okay. On the next one, write an equation, then solve it. A company makes a profit of $1.38 million. That's their profit, so that's your equal. This is 2.54 million more than last year. What was the profit last year? I'll use P for profit. And it was 2.54 more than that last year, so we're going to add, and then to solve we're going to do the inverse and subtract 2.54 million. Obviously that's going to be a negative, and I'm going to put that one on top since I am finding the difference. And again, it's going to be negative. There's more negatives. So profit last year was a negative 1.16 million. Okay. On the flip side, if you haven't done any of these on your own yet, I would suggest maybe trying the back side and then unpausing to see if you're getting some of these correct. Okay. This next one's a little bit trickier. Hopefully I can give you a little bit of a trick for your test, because you're going to have one very similar to this on your test. We're writing an equation, then solving. It says the difference, so we're subtracting, the difference in elevation of a helicopter and a submarine is 18.5 meters. So here's what we know. It says helicopter first, so the difference between a helicopter and a submarine is 18.5 meters. So that's how we're going to write it. Okay, helicopter minus submarine is 18.5 meters. It then says the elevation of the submarine, so it gives us the S, is negative 7 3/4. So I'm going to write it like this. Now, what is the elevation of the helicopter? Okay, so remember that we're going to do the inverse to solve. That's a double negative. So I'm actually going to rewrite it now to look like this. And then I'll solve for H by doing the inverse. So we're going to subtract 7 3/4 from both sides. Okay, and you're going to end up getting 10 3/4 meters. If it were me, I would do 18.50 minus 7.75. I would turn those into decimals, just so you don't have to get a common denominator. But either way will work. Okay. On the next one, we're going to write the word sentence, then solve. A number divided by -9 is -16. Do the inverse to solve. It says n divided by a -9, so I'm going to multiply both sides by a -9. Show your cancellation. A negative times a negative is a positive. 16 times 9 is 144. Okay. Write the word sentence as an equation, then solve a number multiplied by 2/5. So instead of doing x times 2/5, normally the number comes before the letter. Is, there's your equals, 3/20. Okay, so that says multiply, so I'm going to do the inverse and divide both sides by 2/5. And then remember, we do not divide fractions. We keep it, switch it, flip it. So we're going to end up getting 3/8. So x is 3/8. And again, you should go back in and substitute all of these to make sure your answer makes sense. Write the word sentence and solve the product. Product means we're multiplying the product of 15 and a number. So 15 times some number is a -75. That says multiply, so I'm going to do the inverse and divide by 15. So x is going to be a -5. Positive and a negative is a negative. Write the sentence, then solve. Quotient means we are dividing the quotient of a number, and -1.5 is 21. The inverse of dividing by a -1.5 is multiplying by a -1.5 on both sides. And again, a positive times a negative is a negative, and you will get -31.5 once you multiply that out. And then a few word problems. A rock climber averages 12 3/5 feet per minute, which means each minute. How many feet does the rock climber climb in 30 minutes? Well, obviously I want to do 12 3/5 times 30. So since I want to multiply, you need to write a division equation. So I'm going to do some number divided by 30 gives me 12 3/5. And you could have changed those numbers if you wanted to. And then the inverse of dividing by 30 would be multiplying by 30. Now I can do 12 3/5 times 30. Remember that when you have a mixed number, when you're multiplying a mixed number and a whole number, that mixed number goes into an improper. So 5 times 12 is 60, plus the 3 is 63/5 times 30 over 1. And we're going to get 378 feet once you multiply. Okay. And then the last two, a stock has a return of $1.26, a -126 per day. Write and solve an equation to find the number of days until the total is a -10.08. So there's my answer, and it's a -1.26 per day. So we're multiplying. To find x, we'll do the inverse. We'll divide both sides by a -1.26. Remember, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. And when you do 10.08 divided by 1.26, you have to move it twice. So we have 1,008 divided by 126, and it comes out evenly to be 8 days. And the last one. In a school election, 3/4 of the students vote, and there are 1,464 ballots. So we know how many ballots there were. Write and solve an equation to find the number of students. So 3/4 of the students voted. So 3/4 times some number is 1,464. To solve, we're going to do the inverse. That says multiply, so we're going to divide this side by 3/4. Divide this side by 3/4. We are going to keep it, switch it, flip it. I already did a little bit of math here. 3 goes into 1,464 488 times, and then multiply straight across. So we get 1,952 over 1. So 1,952 students voted. Okay. Alrighty, guys. Go back over those if you need to, and then I can answer any questions if you have.